Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Continuing for our book, The Quest for Virtuous Character, by Habib Muhammad Al-Haddad. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala benefit us by him and by his knowledge in both books. We are in chapter number, we are in page 48, inshallah, of the book. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Maintaining a cheerful countenance. Bismillah. Last week we were also going through the hadith where Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said there are 5 things that are of the right of a Muslim onto a Muslim, and the first one is to respond to greetings of peace, and to tahiyya wa ijabatu da'wah, then to answer or to respond to invites from people, wa shuhudul janazah, and to follow the janazah to the burial ground for men, for women to go to the house of the people who had someone pass away, and to visit and to pay condolences to the house of those who are alive, right? And then wa'ayadul marid, which is to visit the ones who are ill, who are sick, and wa tashmidul atis idha hamidallah, and to say yarhamukallah to the one who says alhamdulillah when they sneeze. And so when they sneeze and say alhamdulillah, you say yarhamukallah. So right now, last week we were at the Islamic greeting of peace, right? It's all part of good character, giving other people their rights, right? It's all part of good character. So the quest for virtuous character, we're now at maintaining a cheerful countenance, right? So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, do not disparage anything that is good. If you have nothing else, at least meet your Muslim brother with a cheerful face. And if you have bought meat or cooked a meal, increase its broth and serve some to your neighbor. Right? So basically very simple advice on how to increase goodness between people. Right? So even, and this is how the Prophet ﷺ encouraged people who are poor. Right? So just because you're poor doesn't mean that you are denied of doing goodness. Right? So he said, do not disparage, meaning do not belittle. Right? Do not belittle any form of goodness. All forms of goodness is good. Alhamdulillah. And so do not belittle any form of goodness. Right? But spread goodness as far as you can. If you have nothing else, if there's really nothing that you can offer to anyone, then at least don't fall short of offering a smile, right, to people. And just by smiling to people can really change the day of someone, whatever they're going through that day. A smile from someone, like that they know or they don't know, I could very well change the mood, right, for someone. You could make people happier. Alhamdulillah. Right? So always, so if nothing else, and then at least meet your Muslim brother with a cheerful face. And be happy to see people, alhamdulillah. Don't be grumpy, don't be sulky, don't be sour, right? But try your best, right, to meet your Muslim brother with a happy face. And if you have bought some meat or cooked a meal, then increase the water. Right? Rasulullah in the hadith, the hadith says broth, right? But he said put more water. And meaning make it a bit more diluted. It's not so nice, but at least there's more to go around. Right? This is basically for the poor people. Right? So if the poor, they're unable to, they want to share, but don't have enough to share, and then put more water lah. And then the curry or the broth becomes more. Then you can share with your neighbors. You can drink more soup lah, basically. Right? And then serve some to your neighbor. So don't belittle anything. So Rasulullah even said, oh woman, do not belittle any gift, even if it's the hoof of an animal. I mean that even if what is served to you is a boiled hoof of a goat, right? And there's many hoof, because on the hoof there's no meat. There's no meat on a hoof. So if someone was so poor that they took the hoof and they boiled it to make it into some sort of soup, and they served it to you, don't belittle it, don't scorn it, but take it graciously. And if someone has nothing to give to someone else, except for something like a hoof, in the time it's a hoof lah. In our time, like, for example, you have nothing to serve your guests except like some biscuits you have in the house, and because of poverty lah, someone's poor, then don't be shy to give, even if it's something really minimal. in our society, you get too shy, right? You get too shy to give something like, how can I give this? It's so minimal, it's so, like you feel like you can't, you can't give to someone. There was one time when I was in Tarim, and you were really, really, on a very tight budget when I was studying in Tarim, mashallah. And we would go for days, not eating any form of fish or chicken or whatever. We would just eat vegetables, like basically potatoes lah every day. Very, very, very simple food lah. When I was studying there lah, because of our financial situation. Those are years gone by, mashallah. But it's that's the thing lah. Struggle is good. Struggle teaches you that you don't actually need a lot. Right? Struggle teaches you don't need a lot. But I still remember this one time, I think I shared before in some of my classes, like that I came home from school. So usually before I go to school, I put the rice in the rice cooker, and then I just like put some like curry flavor or whatsoever, and then I just boil it lah, something just over, and then I boil it and I go to school. So when I come back, got some form of flipped rice, then we eat that one. So I'm back from school, and then my neighbours, right, who were Singaporean, neighbours, and they were wealthier, right? So basically I like to keep cats lah, so can feed the cat, right? So can feed our sister to a cat. So basically, I came from school, then my neighbour knocked the door, right? And then she gave me a plate of very nice looking fried fish, right? It looked very nice. And then she was like, give this to your cat. And then I just took it. I said thank you. And then I went to the kitchen and I put it on the counter. I was thinking, is it haram for me to eat the cat's fish? I was like, it looks so nice, and I've not eaten fish for so long. But then she said give it to the cat. I was like, can I eat the cat's fish? I was like, what's the hukum? What's the ruling? She said give it to the cat, but I want it. It's nice, it's good fish. I want to eat the fish with my rice. I cook rice already. I want to eat fish with rice. I was thinking to myself. Anyway, my husband came home, and then he saw the fish. He was like, hey, who gave us fish? And I said, did anyone give the cat fish? And we still haven't given it to the cat, We haven't given it to the cat, because we're wondering, like, why should the cat get nice fish and then we don't get any fish? Usually for the cat, right? Like I will give the cat the Tarimis, they throw out their fish heads, right? So sometimes I will get it, and then I will cook it for myself, eat the fish head, and then give the cat. The Arabs don't eat fish heads. Our society, we eat fish heads, but the Arabs, they don't eat it at all. They throw the entire head out. It's all discarded fish, right? So it's all free lah. Then you can get all the fish heads for free. So my husband saw the very nice fish on the counter. He was like, whose fish is that? And I said, I don't know. I said, it's for the cat. Neighbor give the cat. And he was like, can we eat it? And I said, I don't know. I actually don't know the hukum. Can I eat the cat's fish? So I said, you know what? I'm just going to ask the neighbor. Right? I'm just going to be thick-skinned and ask the neighbor, can the fish be given to me? Because I don't want to take the cat's right in eating the cat's fish. Right? So I knocked on the neighbor's door and I said to the neighbor, the fish you gave me earlier today, can I eat it instead of giving it to my cat? And then she was like, yeah, you can eat it, but it's from yesterday's food. It's yesterday's fish. Right? So she, because the whole time I was wondering, why in the world, why would someone give me food and tell me to give it to my cat? I was wondering, why would someone do that? Right? Why don't you give it to me? And then so then I figured out that okay, she did that because she felt bad she was giving me yesterday's food. Right? But for me, I was more than happy taking yesterday's food. Right? But it was to the extent that our neighbor didn't actually realize how we were struggling financially. Then she didn't realize. Right, so I said to her, can I just have the fish? She said, eat lah if you don't mind eating this fish. I said, I don't mind at all eating this fish. I said, eat it lah. And I give the cat some also, because I felt bad that the cat's fish. So I give the cat some also. Naam. Like so, but basically, don't belittle. Don't belittle any form of goodness you can give, because you really, when I was living overseas, it is different being poor. It's different living the life of poverty. It's very different. Like any form of goodness is appreciated. Any form of goodness. Though twice in my life I lived a life of being poor. Being poor meaning no money in my hands. No money, cannot buy anything at all. Once when I was in America, another time when I was in Italy. Right, so I literally don't know what to eat tomorrow. And literally nothing in your hands. Nothing. There's nothing in your hands. Right, so I remember when I was studying in America, that I had less than $1 in my bank account. Nothing. And you went in a foreign land, don't know what to do. Right? And I was fasting that day. And I was like, I don't know where I'm gonna get my breakfast from. And at the same time, it's called ta'afuf in Islam. Ta'afuf meaning your dignity stops you from asking. Your dignity stops you from asking even your own family members. So you just don't ask. You just don't ask. The dignity lah, the pride lah, the pride. in not in a bad sense, but it's a pride lah. You don't want to ask. You don't want to ask. Right? Allah speaks about them in the Quran that you can tell them by their faces that they are actually hungry, but they will never ask, and they will never say. You must be able to say ta'arifun bisimahum. The Quran, Allah says, and you know them by the signs in their faces. And then Allah says that al-jahilun, they will think that, oh, these people are all rich. They're all rich. They're not rich. They're just min al-ta'affufi. In the Quran, Allah says the same ayat. You know them ta'arifun bisimahum. You know them by their signs in their faces. So which is why the hadith of Rasulullah ﷺ is very important. Because these people who are really poor, they will not ask. Right? So do not belittle any form of goodness that you can give them. Now, okay, of course, when you live the life of the poor, you know a lot of what is luxury. You can tell what is luxury. A lot of things that we do in Singapore, completely unnecessary. A lot of wasted wealth in Singapore. And so we've seen the poor. If you've really seen the poor, in really third world countries, we consume a lot, like in Singapore. Okay, so the next part, partial and complete greetings of peace. A man came to the Prophet ﷺ and said, "Peace be upon you." About which the Prophet ﷺ said, 10 good deeds. The second man came and said, "Peace be upon you and the mercy of Allah." So the first one said, "Assalamu alaikum." So he said 10. And then he said ashara, not 10, but ashara. It's 10. And the next one came and said, "Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah." And he said, "Ashrun," meaning 20. And the third one said, "Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh." And he said, "Thalathu," 30. So this is basically the more you give of your greetings, the more reward you get. So you say Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. There's a full greeting, you get 30. So if someone gives you the full greeting, you have to respond to them with the full greeting. Assalamu alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. If someone gives you a partial greeting, you are to respond with the same partial greeting, if not more. Right? So if they say Assalamu alaikum, so you respond wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah, at least more, or wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, even more. Okay, so at least give equal to what they say. This is an injunction in the Quran itself. Right? If someone greets you, bitahiyyah, so then if someone greets you with a greeting, then respond bimithliha, or better than it, ahsan minha, or better than the tahiyyah in the Quran. The verse is in the Quran about responding to the tahiyyah. So the best qualities of Islam, the Prophet ﷺ was asked, what are the best qualities of Islam? He said, at'amu ta'am, feeding the people, and then greeting those you know and those you don't know with the salutations of peace. These are the best all the peace of Islam. Like feeding the people. It'an is one of the greatest forms of da'wah, to give people food. And really the wisdom of the Prophet ﷺ, the wisdom. Human beings crowd around food. When there's free food, human beings come. Right, so if you want to spread goodness, right, to people, then give them food, feed the people. Right, so the rich, the middle class, and the poor, right, all of them, especially the poor. Right, so if you want to attract the poor to Islam, then present food. Right, Rasulullah ﷺ, when he wanted to first call his family to Islam, he actually invited them to a banquet. He actually prepared food, right, for his family, and he invited all of his family, his tribe members, to his house for a banquet. But before he could speak, so while they were eating and they had finished eating, he wanted to speak after they ate, right? To call them to Islam and to announce that he's a prophet. But before he could speak, his evil uncle Abu Lahab got up and his evil uncle Abu Lahab, he got up and he began to curse the Prophet ﷺ, and he chased the people to go home, right, to leave the place before the Prophet ﷺ would say a single word. Right, but he had fed the people. Right, so it's his sunnah, right, to feed the people. Allahumma salli ala sayyidina Muhammad. So someone posted, we saw the poverty that was in India. You live with the poor. You live with the poor, you will see. It's a different life. It's a different life. Singapore has a lot of poor. Yeah, our own country, a lot of poor. And that basically a lot of us, we are far from the poor. We don't actually see how, especially the poor Muslims in Singapore. It's not that poor Muslims, poor Chinese, poor non-Muslims. Everywhere. Singapore has a lot of poor. Right, so sometimes people say they want to give the zakat overseas. We have a lot of poor here. Right? It is just our responsibility to give to our people. If we don't give to our people, who will give to our people? Right? Will people from Malaysia give money to Singaporeans? Never. Okay? As poor as Singaporeans are in Singapore, the Malaysians will not give charity to Singapore. Singapore gives charity to Malaysia, yes we do. Right? But not the other way around. We will not give charity to Singapore. Because Singapore presents itself as a rich country. But Singapore has plenty of it. Right? And abject poverty in Singapore itself. Right? So if we don't help our own people, who's going to help them? Right? So zakat, by right, and zakat is to the poor here, right, in Singapore. Right? So and please, so when people ask me, can I give zakat overseas? The answer is yes. There are some scholars who say yes, you can give overseas, but they will always say only if you can't find poor in your country, and that's not the case for our country. You can find plenty of poor in our own country. Okay. So the best, the greetings of the greeting of the believers is peace. So peace is the believers' greeting in this worldly life, and the greeting is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the day of judgment. تحيتهم يوم يلقونه سلام. And the greeting that they will receive on the day with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is peace. سلام قولا من رب الرحيم. Peace is the word of the merciful Lord subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so of course Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has commanded us to spread peace, and the word peace, salam, is one of the names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Also Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says salamun alaykum bima sabartum wa ni'ma uqbad dar. Peace be upon you of what you have patiently endured. This is in paradise. When you come into paradise, right, you'll hear the word peace, salam, salam. The entire of paradise, you just hear people saying salam, salam. It's all peace, it's all peace. Then exit is the final home. The source of peace, as-salam, is one of the beautiful names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and encompassed in its meaning. It's a supplication for well-being and protection. Yes, salam. Yes, salam, yes, salam. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, as-salam is one of the sublime names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He made it a sacred covenant amongst his creation. If a Muslim greets another Muslim with the salutation of peace, it is not permissible for the one to mention the other except with goodness. And so if you greet another Muslim with Assalamu alaikum, you cannot backbite them. Thereafter, you cannot lie against them, you cannot cheat them, you can't do anything against them, because you have already greeted them with Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. When a person enters his house, let him say Assalamu alayna wa ala ibadillahi salihin. Assalamu alayna min rabbina. Assalamu alayna min rabbina. Assalamu alayna wa ala ibadillahi salihin. So if you enter your house and your house is empty, there's nobody there in your house, then you can make it easier. If you can't remember the one that I just read, you can say the one that is in the prayer. Assalamu alayka ayyuhan nabiyyu wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Assalamu alayna wa ala ibadillahi salihin. That's the one that we read in our salat. Right, so you can say that, and then you can enter into your house. The Prophet ﷺ said, when you enter your house, greet the occupants with a session of peace, because the shaitan will not enter the house if one of you enters with a word of peace. Right, so make it a habit when you come into someone's house, Assalamu alaikum. Or if you come into an empty house, Assalamu alayka ayyuhan nabiyyu wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Assalamu alayna wa ala ibadillahi salihin. We carry the last part there, and then we'll end our class. So then he says, good morning and good evening. Right, so these utterances are wishes, not greetings. And they're wishes, not greetings. Therefore, it is not appropriate to precede the salutation of peace with them. And the person who says good morning does not deserve a reply. Right, but here the Shaykh is referring to Muslims who substitute the Islamic greeting for another greeting. In the case of non-Muslims who greet Muslims, it's from the ethics of Islam to return their greetings similar or better. Right? So be very clear. So basically, do not replace the salams with good morning with regards to a Muslim. Alright? If you want, you can say Assalamu alaikum, good morning. If you want, no problem. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, good morning. You can, up to you. Right? But don't replace it. Don't replace it for Muslim to Muslim. Of course, for non-Muslim, say good morning lah. Say good morning, morning. Right? It's not our culture in Singapore, right, to do it. It's very, I know in other countries it's a very widespread culture. Right, to say good morning to people as you see them go past you, on the street. People greet each other. Right, as you go past. It's a good culture, mashallah. But amongst our Asian culture, we don't really greet this unless you know the person. Usually, if you know the person, then you greet the person. Otherwise, but in Islam, we have to treat everyone Assalamu alaikum. Every Muslim, you say Assalamu alaikum, and even non-Muslim, you say good morning to them. Right? Or you say good day, you say hello. Right? No matter who they are. You just walk past them on the street, no matter who they are supposed to greet them. Also, with regards to texting, like salams is not a greeting. But Assalamu alaikum is greeting. Right? So the correct greeting is Assalamu alaikum. And now we have auto text, right? Just press the AS and the whole thing come out. If you press AS, the whole Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh comes out. Right? So you don't even have to type it out anymore. Just like AS and then the whole thing appears. Right? So I also wonder why do people not type the whole thing? It's not going to hurt you in any way, nor do you have to count characters. Last time when you SMS, they have one message is how many characters, then you try to minimize your letters as far as possible. Now WhatsApp, people can type an entire essay on the WhatsApp and they can send to other people. Right? Why are we stingy about letters? Say Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Somewhere it's all auto text, so you just press and anything appears. Right, so give a full salam. Inshallah. I'm not saying it's haram. Right? So it's all sunnah, not haram, but do it properly lah. Therefore, it is not appropriate. So non-Muslims greet with expressions such as blessed morning or blessed evening and so on, which, if switched by Muslims as a greeting, constitute an act of imitation, does not have as does waving the hand or moving the fingers. So he's talking about the Muslim lands, and because there is this entire imitation of the Muslim lands or a non-Muslim, he's not talking about non-Muslim lands. And for non-Muslim lands, do as your people do. Right? This is your culture. You can do as your people do in your culture. The Prophet ﷺ said, "Do not imitate the Jews or Christians, as the Jews greet by motioning with the fingers, and the Christians greet by waving the hand." And that is the instruction. from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So again, with the footnote of the translator, and is regards to how the Muslims have been trying to imitate the non-Muslims. Right. So and again, it goes back to intention. If the intention is imitation, then there's something else. If the intention is that it basically is our culture, and there's no intention of imitation, that's okay. Okay, now, all right. We'll just stop it today, inshallah. Any questions? Okay, if there are no questions, sallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Alhamdulillah rabbil alamin. الفاتحة إلى الله بمن نافعنا وعمل الخير مستعين من الهدى ويسر به فوق النبي محمد صلى الله عليه وآله وصحبه وسلم وإلى أرواح معالمنا ومشايخنا ويغفر به